No, there ain't no stopping us. Fly without a boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I'll be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Didn't even get to cross. I said I'm moving too far. Get to glass. Looking at a shooting star. Got more than a couple of people going mad. I swear they're rooting hard. Tell them I be big in the game like she went and got them breast implants. I said I'm moving too fast. Didn't even get to glance. I'm ready to eat up track like I'm seated in a restaurant. If you had swag like mine, you know it's best to flaunt. We aren't hating because you aren't. Shining like it's neon. Rock like kings of Leon. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Yeah, shoot. Yeah, shoot. Yeah, shooting. Yeah, shooting shots. Shooting stars. Didn't even get to cross. I said I'm moving too far. Get to glass.
Okay, well, hello everyone. I wasn't really expecting to be on tonight, but I figured we'd talk about this while it was a hot topic, right? So I don't have a lot of comments planned. Not that I do that with my shows. My live shows, at least, are pretty unscripted. And hello, Logan, I do see you. Thank you for commenting. It eases my paranoia as to whether the comments are working. This is a show that I really hope people will comment on, because I think it will benefit from a lot of interaction as we discuss opinions as to what's going on here. Again, the topic is, as I've got up on the screen here, Justin Amash's series of unfortunate tweets, because it's not just one. One of them kind of got all the attention, and people were finding different ways to interpret it in isolation, but it didn't appear in isolation. And it seems like there was some doubling down done. But is this just simply a newbie mistake? Perhaps being a bit ignorant of the culture of the party, which happens a lot with new people. We are a strange breed, and you can't expect new people, particularly people that are quote unquote famous, because they're not in amongst the hoi polloi every day. You know, he's in a totally different, group atmosphere. He may not be really familiar with what the nitty gritty base feels. And I think we really have to consider that probably the most likely option. Or is this, really a concerted attempt to divide the party, to take the party in a different direction? There's some evidence to that. It just all depends upon what you want to look at. But I also want to draw a parallel as we go forward. I'm finding some hypocrisy amongst some libertarians. Wow, big surprise, right? That we can be hypocrites like anybody else. A lot of people got really up in arms with Dave Smith's taking over the party thing. And I don't like that terminology. I said I don't like that terminology, but he went on to explain that all he meant was out recruiting by getting more people into the party that happen to agree with him. And that's pretty much what everyone does. Well, Justin Amash has pretty much said the same thing using different words, and I don't see the same people complaining. Be consistent, people. If you have a problem with Dave Smith saying that, and you don't have a problem with that same insinuation from Justin Amash, then it means you don't really have a problem with taking over the party or out recruiting. You just don't like who's doing it on one end. Be honest. To me, I encourage everyone to frickin' take over the party. You've got a point of view. You want to get more people in of that point of view? Try it. Go ahead. Let's see what happens. We'll grow the party. And to me, what tends to happen when you recruit people of one particular point of view, they come in, meet everybody else, and everything kind of tends to get into one big melting pot, and it doesn't stay factional for long. So I don't have any problem with any group saying they're out recruiting or taking over the party or whatever. But I do have a problem with people being hypocrites and having a problem only when Dave Smith says it, but doesn't have a problem when other people are pretty much saying the same thing, perhaps using more politic terms. Because again, I've made no bones that I don't like the phrase taking over the party. That's bound to get people's danders up. But he even admitted it was done for trolling purposes a little bit, and it had its intended effect. So that's the sorts of things that I want to explore. But I also want to get one thing out here, front and center. I love Justin Amash. I don't have anything personal against him. I love him on several respects. He was a great congressperson, and the way he just took the piss out of Trump on so many things. He's very intelligent. And then, he's a cutie pie. He's just an absolutely adorable person. So there's nothing wrong with that either. So none of this is coming from a position of not liking Justin at all. Because I was highly disappointed he didn't run in our last election. But in hindsight, it was the best decision for him to make. But when he first announced that, I was truly, truly bummed. But that was such a big dumpster fire, and with COVID and everything, I'm glad he didn't. So I know some people are going to spin this as to me being against Justin Amash, and I'm not. I am more inclined to believe that this is a newbie mistake. Maybe that's hope springs eternal. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to criticize it. And I have a big problem with people getting all bent out of shape like I'm criticizing the golden calf. Fuck that. Everyone is open to criticism. Everyone. No hero worship in my camp. I won't stand for it. Anyone who says something that is worthy of being critiqued is open for critique. Most importantly, leaders. Leaders are not beyond critique. Okay? So if that's your problem, you're going to have a problem with me with a lot of people because everyone's open to critique. Some people have this philosophical problems with me, even with the LNC. You note that I don't keep my disagreements with other LNC members in private. And I've been told a lot of people that's what you need to do. You got to you got to present a united front. Bullshit. That's what the old parties do. If there isn't unanimity on the LNC, why should I pretend there is? I think you guys deserve to know. It doesn't mean there's any kind of animosity. I totally adore my colleagues. For the most part. You know, some aren't my BFF, but for the most part, I do respect them all. Whether or not I like them all, like would invite them to a barbecue at my house is a different story, though I would invite most of them. But even the ones I wouldn't invite to a home barbecue, I respect. But if you ever expect me to be quiet on anything and present a united front, honey, you're going to be disappointed because I will never do that. I didn't run on that. I wasn't elected on that platform. Twice. On the first round with over 50%. Okay? So don't expect me to be something I'm not. And if you have a problem with that, I think you ought to rethink it because I believe politics needs more transparency, and that includes being able to openly disagree. As long as you do it agreeably. And as long as you don't bring personal animosity into it. So I do see a bunch of comments, and I love it. And is hot topic still a hot topic is one of the questions. I don't know. I'm old. Okay, I'm not a boomer. But let's get that straight. I'm not a boomer. I'm a zoomer. But I don't know. Is it? I don't know. But some people have asked what's going on. And that's what we'll get to next. And I have to tell you, Rancid Lion, that's just such a boss username. I don't know why I find that so, like, amazing, but I do. I'll put more comments on the screen as we get started. So let's get started. I am reading. We will interact because that's what I want. But let's get to what is the hoopla? What is going on? What are some people upset about? What am I finding worthy of critique? Okay, so I'm going to put it up here on the screen in a second. There was a series of 3 tweets. Let me find the first one. Was this? Let me unlock my scene here. I didn't put them in order. Okay, that's not it. It's this one. Here we go. Here's the first tweet. Justin Amash, I think we should call anarchism, anarchism, and libertarianism, libertarianism. First of all, who is this we you speak of, Justin? That's going to be a big problem through the rest of mine. You don't speak for all libertarians. Nobody speaks for all libertarians. Most libertarians don't even speak for themselves. They probably will disagree with themselves in an hour. But what does that mean? You are not the arbiter of what is libertarianism. And the fact is, as far as the Libertarian Party is concerned, which has existed for 50 years before you joined, and for 44 years before I joined, and I doubt there's very many people listening who are around since the beginning, it already has its own definitions and culture. And in the Libertarian Party, we are all libertarians. There aren't libertarians and anarchist libertarians. Why the hell would you think you have the right to say that? You don't. And what makes it, I think, stick in the craw of more people where they wouldn't have as much of a problem with it is the fact that, and I do think this was a mistake in the past, by the way, that we called ourselves the Libertarian Party. If we want to get into who's a real libertarian, Justin, the socialists had the word first. Okay? Do we want to get into that? That's why I don't think the Libertarian Party should have chosen that name. I wish we had just been the Liberty Party or something like that. But it's our name. We're stuck with it. So when you say something like this, Justin, it makes it sound like, because the word libertarian is also in the name of the party, like you're saying certain people are the redheaded stepchild of the party, or pink-headed stepchild, if you will, since I am, in fact, an anarchist. But, again, how about if I said to you, Justin, because I firmly believe, and I have no problem saying this, that I am an anarchist, but because I believe it is the consistent expression of libertarianism. I understand that some people don't agree with me, and I don't disparage them for that. You never hear me saying that anarchists are the only libertarians and that minarchists or others are not libertarians. You'll never hear me saying that at all. Never. Ever. I'd never say anything like what was up on the screen here, ever. So how about, though, let me play devil's advocate here. I know Justin Amash is a constitutionalist. A lot of libertarians are not, and we're going to get into that. How about if I said, I think we should call constitutionalism, and everyone else libertarians, thus excluding him from the label. I don't think he would like that very much. So what I don't know at this point is if he really knows how utterly offensive that tweet is, or if it was just a new person mistake. But I can tell you, if he continues along this line, he's going to have a very bad time in this party. And the fact is, if he continues on this line, he should have a very bad time in this party. The last thing we need is another Republican retread that divides the party. That's the last thing in the world we need. And I think after fuck Bill Weld, that's the last thing we will put up with. I think we were a lot more tolerant of it in the past, but thank you, Bill Weld, for that one thing. You showed us how not to be tolerant of that anymore. So I do hope this was just a mistake, because that is just truly, truly divisive and unnecessary. And if you're going to be a leader in this party, Justin, be a leader of us all. And don't be trying to make people second-class members, because we're not. I won't do that to you. I would never do that to you. You are obviously a constitutionalist and a classical liberal, which you claim later on. I'd never denigrate you for that, even though I think you're wrong and you're not being consistently libertarian, and ultimately you are advocating for some force. I'm not going to try to throw you out of the party or say you're a second-class libertarian. I would never, ever do that. You want to know why? Because I know how it feels, and it feels like fucking shit. I don't do that to people, so I'm asking that you don't do that. So let's go. Let's pull up the rest of the tweets, because as I said, this wasn't a one-off. And some people ask the context. The larger context, I don't do Twitter a lot, but the larger context was him responding to someone saying that most libertarians are anti-government. And that's what prompted this response. So basically saying there should be a separation. David Johnson, I will put your thing up on the screen because I think you misunderstood me. Let's get this right up here. I don't believe he is. That's why I'm angry. I see Justin Amash as a libertarian who was wrongly in the Republican Party for a long time. My statement was, if he starts dividing the party, that is how he will be viewed, as another libertarian, another Republican retread that is looking to divide the party. I don't view him that way. So if I was unclear on that, I hope that clarified it. I expect different of him because I don't view him that way. That is why this tweet was so disappointing. If I did view him that way, I would expect this tweet. And I wouldn't care, honestly. I would say, there goes another Bill Weld. But I don't think he is that. That is, so yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify, David, because I certainly don't want to be misunderstood here. So let me pull up now the second tweet here. Libertarianism is about protecting rights, not opposing government. Oh, Lord have mercy. Again, says who? Who gives you? I mean, that right there, words fail me. No, I'm sorry, Justin. Most libertarians would disagree with you. I won't say all, because I don't speak for all libertarians, and neither do you. So, for some libertarians, a lot of it is about opposing government. So don't say it's not. You don't have the right to say that. So that came first, Logan. Thank you. I don't necessarily have them in order. I am a newbie to Twitter, and I'm not very good at it. So he goes on to say, government must be assessed relative to scale. We favor, again, this we. Who are the we you are speaking of, Justin? You do not speak for all libertarians or libertarianism. We favor limited, narrowly focused government. Who? I don't. Now what? We favor narrowly focused government at large scales, federal. I don't believe in any federal government, Justin. And I would think I'm hopefully somewhat representative of some libertarians, being that I am on the LNC. Okay? While often preferring more active government at small scales. Now, what I really liked is that he said often there. That's a good qualification. There he is qualifying it that not everybody does. And I think he's probably right there. Many libertarians would prefer that. So I think if he had said we often favor limited, narrowly focused government, if he qualified it, that would have been much better. So I hope he gets more careful in the future, because here's the thing. Who comes to conventions? Our base. I do believe he is aiming for our 2024 nomination, and I hope he is. I really hope he is. I think he'd be great for us as a candidate. But if he is aiming for that, alienating the base isn't the way you're going to get there. Because I do think Bill Weld ruined that, and in a good way. I thank Bill Weld for this, ruined that. I think that convention delegates are going to be much more suspicious, and that's good. But alienating the base isn't the way to do it, is not the way to do it. So that was the second one I had, but apparently that is the first tweet somebody clarified for me in chat. Let's see here. Last one. And here's the one where it's his quote-unquote taking over the party tweet that some people don't have a problem with, but they had a problem with Dave Smith. Okay? I'm committed to making the Libertarian Party a place for all people of all backgrounds. Okay, that's fine. I agree. With a diversity of views. Okay. I have a question there, and I did ask him, and I didn't get an answer. Does that diversity of views include anarchists calling themselves libertarians, Justin? You seem to have contradicted yourself. But here's where it goes wrong. He says what he envisions the Libertarian Party as a whole to be dedicated to. Fundamental American principles like individual liberty, agreed. The rule of law, not every libertarian agrees there. Not at all. And divided powers, a lot of libertarians don't agree there. Help reshape politics by joining us. So this is his taking over the party call. And he puts in there some things that all libertarians do not agree on. And is he saying that he's committed to remaking the party in that image? I don't know. That's certainly the way the tweet reads. And if that is what he means, he's going to have a hard time. He's going to have a bad time, because he's assuming in that tweet, there's an underlying assumption there that all libertarians are constitutionalists. And I think if he really believes that, he's going to have a rude awakening. Perhaps he knows that we're not all constitutionalists, but he's committed to making us a constitutional party. Perhaps. I don't know. I really don't know, but I do know that on its face interpretation of that tweet, but is problematic. But you know how written things are. You see how easily people can be misunderstood. I was misunderstood. Like, David thought I said something like that I would have found abhorrent. So it's so easy, but the fact is, there's a lot of people questioning him, and he hasn't responded to any of them. In this chat, David Johnson said to me, wait, what you just said sounded like you're saying something pretty bad. And I immediately said, oh, no, that's not what I mean. A lot of people have done direct tweets at Justin. I know he can't answer everybody because, there's a lot of people, but he hasn't answered anyone as to clarifying these intents. And that does, in fact, bother me. And, yeah, so I would love to think the best here, but I would be naive not to be concerned. And I think a lot of us have a right to be concerned. Let me put this up here. Daniel Woik made a statement. Yeah, I agree with you that he is conflating state and government. And the thing is, I brought that up to him in my follow-up tweet. Because when he had said libertarianism is about protecting rights, not opposing government, I should have probably screen captured a couple of my tweets. You'd be able to find it. I said, National Secretary here, I absolutely disagree. I am all about opposing government. And then my second tweet was, however, I think you're conflating government and state here, but I don't know if I said something like, I don't know if you're parsing things out that carefully. I was taking his statement to mean the state and not just the government, because if he just means governance or government, yeah, I don't have a problem with governance. Government and governance is inevitable, such as like where he pointed out the example of family. Some people really freaked out on him for saying family was a form of governance, but it is. If you're not governing your 8-year-old kid, you're not being a good parent. So he caught some flack for that I thought was a bit wrong. And perhaps that is showing that he does mean governance. I don't know. But I want to think the best. But I also, again, think that we can't, just because someone is famous or someone we are so glad to have in the party, means we can't critique them. So Saladriel here said against both state and government. See, here's another view. I'm not against governance or government properly defined, but I am definitely against the state. And I would think the vast majority of libertarians are anti-state, which the general public would view as anti-government because they don't parse out the difference. So yeah, I can't, as Bruce Hanna said, I can't read his mind, so I don't claim to know what he believes. That's exactly it. I'm reading these words and trying to figure out, but I think everyone, if they're being honest, needs to concede there is an alarming interpretation that is possible here. It's not unreasonable. And I don't think people who are alarmed should be jumped upon. Let me put up David's here. Which of those libertarians generally agree upon? The phrase rule of law is pretty particular, and the way it is used is generally in conservative circles, and we definitely do not agree upon that. The rule of law often, like, for instance, I'm going to be doing, this might seem like a little bit of a rabbit trail, but it isn't. I'm going to be doing a show on, there was this guy, crap, what was his name? I listen to so many YouTubers. I think he calls himself the actual social justice warrior or something really cringy like that. And he did a critique of the Breonna Taylor incident. And part of his critique is that the officers didn't break any law. I don't give a shit if they didn't break any law. They are wrong, and they murdered that lady. So that's generally the way libertarians would view the rule of law, is saying, well, that's what the law is. I don't view it that way. And an anarchist will have a different view on, even in Ancapistan, what the rule of law or what governance might be. So I don't think he can say that as a blanket statement. I think it needs to be a much more nuanced. And the fact that Trump used the term rule of law a lot, it's something very triggering, I think, and open to a lot of interpretations, that he needed to be a little bit more careful. I am not about the rule of law. I'm about the primacy of the individual. Like, the way I would word this if I were him, governments, I wouldn't say held to rule of law. I would say hold to the non-aggression principle. Now, that is something the libertarians could get behind, and that's actually in our platform. And that brings up another good point. I've never seen him quote anything that's actually in our platform. And it says, do we prefer governments with more consolidated... I want to put David's comment back up because it was quite complex. Do we prefer government with more consolidated powers over divided? We're not in agreement on that. If everything is very local, it doesn't need to be divided. So that, again, is not something I think there's unanimity on. And I know I pronounced that word wrong. I'm sorry. I stumble over it. There are some words that my tongue just will not say. So yeah, I hope I answered that at least somewhat. I think there's a much better way to word that. Again, and there was one post where he did reference the non-aggression principle, and I was really happy about that. I should have screen capped it because I agreed with him. Justin is getting the same crap that I'm getting when I'm critiquing social media companies. I've never ever said that I want the government to get involved. All I said is every one of you should have a problem with what they're doing, with censoring that they're doing. And all I get is people jumping on me going, but it's a private company and, oh, you want the government. Where did I say government? Well, apparently Justin is complaining about the censorship and people are saying the same thing to him. And he once, he posted something to the effect of, I'm not claiming any of this is a violation of the NAP or asking for government involvement. Like, he was saying like the same thing. And I was really happy to see him reference the non-aggression principle, because that's not something, generally people who are going down the wrong path would say. So that was very encouraging. I probably should have screened that. Let me see here. Logan, I'm not sure about this. I know a lot of anti-state minarchists, and in fact, Rothbard, in his statement, he has an article, I think it's called, Do You Hate the State? I think that's the name of it. And if that's not the name of it, it at least is a major quote in it, so you could Google it. And he talked about anarchists that aren't really anti-state and minarchists that are. And I think the example he gave was... crap, what was that guy's name? Oh, I can't think of it. It's a one-word name, like Locke, but it's not Locke. It's not Locke as in John Locke. But there's another name that's almost like that, who wrote The State Our Enemy, I think. Nock, that's it, N-O-C-K. And he described Nock as an anti-state minarchist. So I don't think it's exclusively an anarchist thing. There are some state-loving anarchists that I've found, believe it or not. So, yeah, see, let me put Dean up here. I tend to agree with Dean. That rule of law statement needs to go. It needs to go. I do view it almost... I don't know if gaslighting's the word I'd use, but I understand what you're saying. I know a lot of libertarians would fear it's a dog whistling comment to try to make the Libertarian Party Republican Party 2.0. That might be an unfair feeling, but the fact is, it is real. Sometimes we have to deal with how people really feel rather than whether it's rational or not. Well, Logan, I don't defend corporate rights. I just leave that out of the discussion. But I don't think corporations are people. I don't think corporations are libertarian. I absolutely agree with left libertarians on that point. I think we are doing ourselves a huge disservice. And I've done a couple shows on that. So I LOL right along with you that I don't think the corporate boot tastes any sweeter than the state boot. But that's neither here nor there. Let me see here. Yeah, I like this statement, David. I think most people would agree with you. Like, my husband's not an anarchist. And a lot of people find that really fascinating for some reason, but, you know, we don't argue. Because I don't argue with minarchists very much. What's there to argue about? It's such a meaningless argument at this point. And I think most minarchists would agree with you. That it isn't like if everything was able to be replaced by a voluntary alternative that they would cry and go, no, I want the state, you know? So that's a fantastic sentiment. I wish, you know, David, I really wish Justin would make that statement. I think that would endear him to a lot of the party, and I think he would agree with that. So man, David, that was actually quite brilliant. Put that bug in Justin's ear, if you would, because I think that would mend a lot of bridges. So let me put up Dean here. I'll never agree with the LP being Republican 2.0. Amen to that. Hallelujah. The hardest job, is the secretary. It's hard. I love it, though. I do love it. It takes, I think, a special breed to be treasurer and to be secretary. Oh, so yeah, thank you so much. So that's where we're at in the tweets. But I wanted to bring up some information here that if Justin should happen to watch this, that might be helpful. But it also might be helpful to some of you guys. It's going to require me sharing my my Safari browser here a second. So let me pull up this blank screen and okay, here we go. First of all, what's this? Okay, we're going to go over the comments that were on this same post, but I don't want to go there yet. Not there. Okay. I want Justin.
All right, again, it's a little bit of an introduction.
Sorry, I didn't want that to play. I want Justin to take a look at this, and I see that my screen is in the way. I can't move myself, damn it. Can I? Hold on, let me unlock it. I want to see if I can move where my face is at, because my ugly mug is, there we go. Okay, you see there where it says the Libertarian Party? Go to the last bullet point. We believe that government's only responsibility, if any. Yeah, no, I closed all my lesbian midget porn tabs, Logan, you know, sorry. We believe that government's only responsibility, if any. The official position of the Libertarian Party, as per the Statement of Principles, is agnosticism on the issue of government. That doesn't mean individual party members don't have a position. Obviously, we do. But the party itself takes no position, which means both minarchists, well, when I say, rather than saying minarchists, because I'm not trying to exclude classical liberals here, both anarchists and many flavors of non-anarchists are all libertarians, according to the party. And my opinion on this is, I don't like anarchists who keep trying to throw out minarchists, and I don't like minarchists who keep wanting to throw out anarchists. To me, the people who don't belong are the people who are saying the other don't belong. And I'm not a type of purger. But if you can't, if you're not an anarchist and you can't accept anarchists, this isn't the party for you. If you're an anarchist and you can't accept non-anarchists, this isn't the party for you. And I'll say that without apology. Because we don't need that. We don't need that division. That's the last thing in the world we need. Now, some other points I wanted to bring up, and I did want to just use official party documents here. Also on the LP, well, yeah, Milius, yeah, let me put this up. Yeah, that's a problem too. They can get out too. Anarchists that want to throw out other anarchists can get out too. Okay. Now, let me pull up, because I'm trying to use only official party sources here. The party gave me the honor of putting me on their site. It passed through, which means that what I have to say here is at least generally approved, where I give a presentation on the statement of principles. And that's what I had come up before. I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm not even going to play hardly any of it, but I would recommend to any of you who have questions about this in the chat or watching afterwards, or even Mr. Amash himself would, I'm clicking on the wrong screen. I'm such a dummy. I'm clicking on the reflected screen rather than the actual one. So I would highly suggest that they go and check out this video where I had spoken 2017. And I think somewhere near the beginning, I'm just going to start this for a second. It'll really just want to be a second here. And here I am clicking on the wrong screen again. Dumb. Okay. Let me see.
All right, again, it's a little bit of an introduction.
I'm going to go a little bit, if I can remember.
And that the...
Let's see here.
It was very good. I said, and it's a fire. Have something called the Statement of Principles, what it means and what principles have the right to exercise.
Oh, it might be towards the end, but anyway, I would highly recommend you guys watch this.
Stressing the fact that
Taxation was never intended to be separate or apart from the position of the Statement of Principles that requires the eventual repeal of all taxation. So now that you have this history of how we started to single out income taxation and what this...
Okay, yeah. Well, this one goes long. This is a different one.
all just pull together. This is being disturbingly denied.
Here we go. This is exactly what I wanted you guys to hear.
Are so trivial. Positive role of government in this document. It assigns government a negative role. The government must not do something.
Okay, and chat, could someone let me know? It's getting garbled on my end. Is it garbled on your end? If you could please let me know. I want to look at the chat here 1 second. Can someone please let me know if that sound was okay? Because I don't want to play garbled sound. So let me start this again.
Government must not violate rights. That is a monumental change. And that actually has deep implication for the battles we keep waging today. I know, they're really, and you guys never have any battles. It's only the other states. I know it doesn't happen in Washington. But this has deep implications for the factional battles today. So if someone is on the minarchist side of the debate, you cannot simply point to rights protection and say that is what the state should do or what the state does. All ideological issues about the state, at least according to our Statement of Principles, must center around proving that the state does not violate rights. That is all we say in our foundational document about the state. It must not violate rights. And that is the heart of the dispute. The heart of the little no-state dispute. And you want to know something? The party itself said, we don't take a stand on it. The party...
Whoops, sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, I was getting garbled sound, and I was worried I was putting you guys through that, and I'm not going to do it. What I go on to say there is whether or not rights are being violated is at the heart of the dispute. And I go on to talk about the train analogy of us all going in the same direction and how that is being destroyed by some people in the party and that we need to stick together type of thing. And that the arguments between anarchists and minarchists are so trivial at this point to border on moronic. That for us to be wasting our time on that is probably the most self-destructive, stupid ass thing we could do. And I hold to that. But what I was talking about also in that talk is the statement of principles. So I want to pull up something here that I want to emphasize to you guys. Oh, let me pull this up first. Anarchists have always been in the party. This is from the first year of the party. If you look down where it says platform poll, if you look under economics, 25% of the party was anarcho-capitalist. We've been here since the beginning. Some of the party founders were anarchists. Some of the party founders who weren't anarchists became anarchists, such as D. Frank Robinson. Okay, so we have always been quite diverse. But why did I lose? Okay, I want to pull up something with the statement of principles from LPD. I think I accidentally closed that tab, so let's pull up. Oh no, I know where it's at. Never mind. Let's go back to this scene. And what I wanted to show you is right here. Let me blot out those other things that are showing up in the background. Here we go. Okay. This is a comparison of the 1972 to 1974 Statement of Principles. And the areas that you should really be paying attention to are the yellow, which is what changed in 1974. The significance of these changes in 1974 was the party officially adopting its position of agnosticism by the state and officially stating that anarchists are fully libertarian. Sorry to tell you that, Mr. Amash, and part of the Libertarian Party. You can see that the 1972 Statement of Principles, where the crossed out language is, used to give a positive role to the government. It used to say that the role of the government is to protect rights. The changes in 1974 turned that on its head by not assigning any positive role to the government and only a negative role to the government. Those of you who are well versed in the idea of positive and negative rights will know how significant that is to change something from a positive duty to a negative duty. So the current Statement of Principles, which was passed in 74, does not say that the role of the government is to protect rights. It says that governments, where they exist, must not violate rights, and that governments, when instituted, cannot violate rights. The current Statement of Principles assigns no positive role to the government. It only says if they're around, they can't violate rights. Doesn't say they have to protect them, just says they have to not violate them. And that is what I was getting at in that speech that was getting a little garbled. That is where the debate is. If you want to argue for government, feel free. Show me how it doesn't violate rights. Simple as that. And that's where Justin Amash is gravely mistaken. There was another tweet I didn't put up where he had said, libertarians believe that governments should be protecting rights. Well, some do, but that's not what our platform, let me clarify that, because the platform's relationship to the Statement of Principles is transitional, and the platform is much more moderate than the Statement of Principles is. So the Statement of Principles does not say that whatsoever. It does not say that the role of government is to protect rights. So I'm sorry, Mr. Amash. A lot of libertarians do believe that, and you're correct in saying that. But you're not correct in saying that that is the party's ultimate position. We have to distinguish between interim position, which I would think that is a very fair characterization of our interim position and our end game position. The statement of principles is an end game position. And I just haven't seen any evidence from his tweets that he's aware of this document and that he's aware of the history and importance of it. I don't blame him because a lot of libertarians aren't. And well, that sounded wrong because that sounded like I made him not a libertarian. Let me reword that. I don't blame him because a lot of libertarians who've been in the party a lot longer than he has doesn't. So I'd like to show you guys something else. So let me hide that. And I'm pulling up here the bylaws of the party, but I want to go to the first page first so you can see what we're... So right here is the 2020 bylaws. If those of you who aren't familiar, the bylaws is kind of like... the bylaws is to the party what the Constitution is supposed to be to the United States. This is the contract between the party and its members. It lays out your rights and your obligations. Okay? If you're not really familiar with the national bylaws, you really should be, because again, this is what outlines what we are. So I want to go to page 3 here, and hopefully you can see that, and I don't have a hard copy in front of me, so I got to scoot over to, because I'm old, remember, to look at the screen. What I really want you to look at here is Article 3, Statement of Principles and Platform. A lot of people will say that you cannot define libertarianism. And in the wider world, I think that's true. I mean, as I said earlier, we stole the word from the socialists. I know a lot of people don't want to admit that, but I'm a historian, and history doesn't care about your feelings. And history doesn't care about my feelings. It's a historical fact. Okay? American libertarianism is really different than what libertarianism is overseas. In Europe, if you say libertarianism, they think ANCOM. It's only here that a lot of people will think ANCAP. Okay, so I'm not talking about the word small l, libertarian. I'm talking big L, Libertarian Party libertarianism. Anyone who says you cannot define Libertarian Party libertarianism is either abysmally unaware of our bylaws or is telling a fib. Because our bylaws define what Libertarian Party libertarianism is. And that might be a surprise to you guys. It says, the Statement of Principles affirms that philosophy upon which the Libertarian Party is founded, by which it shall be sustained, and through which liberty shall prevail. So, you want to know what Libertarian Party libertarianism is? The Statement of Principles. If it fits in the Statement of Principles, it's Libertarian Party libertarianism. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Now, that doesn't mean that people who disagree with parts of the Statement of Principles can't be libertarians or can't be in the party. It just says what the party believes. That doesn't mean you have to agree with it all. I agree with all of the Statement of Principles, but I don't agree with the entire party platform, and no one has to. This isn't a death cult, you know, where if you don't agree with everything, we're going to lop your head off. It's just that I think it's reasonable to expect honesty where you disagree, and sometimes that doesn't happen. And if you continue down there, where is it that I want to look at? I'm sorry, it's very small on the screen. Oh, yeah, the next sentence. The enduring importance of the Statement of Principles requires that it may be amended only by a vote of 7/8 of all registered delegates at a regular convention. I want that to sink in for those of you who haven't heard me talk on this before. 7/8 is a large percentage, but it doesn't just say 7/8. It says 7/8 of all registered delegates. Those of you familiar with Roberts know that normally when you say a 2/3 vote, it doesn't mean 2/3 of everyone. It doesn't even mean 2/3 of everyone in the room at one time. It doesn't mean 2/3 of everyone registered for a convention. It means 2/3 of those voting. But this doesn't say that. This says 7/8 of all registered delegates. Any of you who have ever been to a national convention will immediately see the problem here. There never is 7/8 of registered delegates on the floor at any one time. So what this is basically saying is the Statement of Principles is unamendable. It's there, and that's on purpose. So where Justin might have been saying that he's looking to reshape the party into believing different things, good luck, dude. It's impossible because the statement of principles is there. And I'm not sure he's aware of this. And I can tell you my proudest achievement in the party, the one thing that I hope when the party's 100 years old, that there will be somebody very much like me who's in love with the statement of principles, who will say my name with some respect for something that I did for the party. And I want to show you what I did. So let me go further in the bylaws here. Right here, amendment. There used to be an alleged back door in the bylaws in which you could amend the statement of principles by less than 7/8 by a 3 or 4 step process. Now, I deny that was ever a reality, but enough people believed it that they kept trying it. So in 2018, I mounted a campaign called Close the Back Door. And that amendment was passed. And it was passed right there, Article 17, number 2. Article 3, Section 1, or this section shall not be amended by a vote of less than 7/8 of registered delegates. That put in the force field. It made it circular. That everything that has to do with that 7/8 can only be amended by the same 7/8. Good luck with that. You think you're going to change the Libertarian Party into something that's more your definition of libertarian? Good luck with that, buddy, because it ain't going to happen, if that's what he meant. And I don't think he's aware of this, and I think it's only fair that he should be, and hopefully that's not what he meant. Again, I don't know what he meant. I hope he didn't mean any of that, because I adore him. I do. He's such a cutie pie. I get weird political crushes, and, you know, it just happens. I've got a political crush on AOC. It's not her politics. I just think she's just such a cutie pie too, man. AOC is hot. I don't care what you say. AOC is hot. Hot Latina women. I've got a thing for hot Latina women. Okay, and let me see. I think that might be nearly everything I have, but I would like to go back here and let me put that off the screen, and let's see if there's any other comments I need to put up. Let's take that off as well. Let me unlock this screen. There we go. Let's take that off. So let's see if there's any more comments that I missed. I do see Logan saying, Logan agrees that Justin's a cutie pie and AOC is hot. I'm glad we agree. And they displaced Sarah Palin in my heart. Again, not her politics, but, you know, the sexy librarian look does something for me. So, yeah, now that I've confessed all of my secret political crushes. Oh, boy. So I'm going back here through the comments to see if there's any that I missed here. Okay, Bruce Hanna. The majority of voters equate anarchy to lawlessness, so it seems he has taken a shortcut to ease the concerns of those outside the libertarian sphere. But the fact is there are anarchists, and he's going to have to deal with it sometime. And I can appreciate that. I certainly can appreciate that point. But you can't ease the concerns by almost lying. There's something I don't like. I'm not saying that he does or you do, but a lot of people in... Whoops, I meant to remove that. Okay, a lot of people in the Libertarian Party will soft sell what we actually believe because they're worried about scaring people. But the fact is, once you get them in, they're going to learn it anyway. And if you didn't tell them what to expect, they're going to feel lied to, and we will never get them back if they feel we lied to them. So he's going to have to deal with the fact that there are vocal anarchists in the LP. Half of the LNC are anarchists. So he's going to need to find a different way to do it and maybe define it properly. Or maybe instead call them voluntarists. Now, I don't agree with using that word instead of anarchists, but at least it's better than saying anarchists aren't libertarians. And if those of you want to know why I don't like using the word voluntarist, is it's a coined word of a current movement of which Wendy McElroy is a big part. And I believe they have the right to define themselves And the voluntarist movement is a non-political movement who absolutely denounces voting and participation in the political process. So out of respect to an existing movement, I won't use that term. I know some people do. I guess they're trying to take it over the way we took over libertarian from the socialists. I don't know, but I won't use it. I respect Wendy, and I won't use that term. I stick to the term that best describes me, which is libertarian anarchist. And I do generally use the term libertarian anarchist rather than just anarchist, because not all anarchists are libertarians. He's right on that point. Anarchy is very broad. The vast majority of anarchists don't hold to the non-aggression principle. So that's why I use the term libertarian anarchist, and it explains what kind of anarchist I am, because some anarchy is lawlessness. He's not wrong there. You're not wrong there, Bruce. So, but it is something he's going to need to deal with so that people don't feel lied to. Let me see anything else here. Yeah, that's my concern. I would love for him to be our candidate. I think he would do well, and he's so well spoken. And again, he's a cutie pie. There's nothing wrong with having a cutie pie, but alienating the base, we've been through that. We went through that in 2008. If those of you remember Bar Root, we've been through that. We don't need that again. And Colorado still hangs its head in shame that Barr and Root were nominated in Denver. But let me tell you something. The Colorado delegation didn't vote for their sorry asses. But continuing. And we went through this with Bill Weld. We don't need to alienate the base. So here. And Logan, I appreciate your point, because I know you're not a fan of Dave Smith. But you're understanding why I'm kind of equating the two. That they seem to be kind of saying the same thing, don't they? But just from different perspectives. So I'm glad you're being consistent in saying they're both alarming to you. I think people who are alarmed by Dave's, it wasn't a tweet, it was a YouTube video, his show, need to be alarmed by this. Or they're being hypocrites. I'm not, everyone tries to take over the party. And again, grow the party, get them in here. I'll make anarchists out of them. Oh boy. I like this from Rancid Lion. Yeah, if he doesn't show up in Reno, people, because here's kind of the problem that he's walking into. We've been done dirty by a lot of who are Republican retreads. Again, I'm not calling him that. We have been done dirty by a lot of them who just prance on in and think they're going to be crowned. And it will do him a lot of good if he shows up in Reno. And I think it will do him a lot of good to meet and mingle and talk with a lot of the base. And I think he'd be absolutely welcome. I think people generally feel very, very good about Justin. I know there's some who don't. I'm one anarchist who feels good about him, but now I have a few concerns. And for those of you who have asked, yeah, I have written him personally, not since this tweet, but when he first got involved in the party, I did write him personally and offer to explain some things and just, give him a welcome and a background. And he probably gets 1 million emails, so it was unanswered. Whether he purposely ignored it, I don't know. All I know is the fact that I never got a response. But I did write, and I did offer, and that offer is still on the table. And let me tell you something, it's a genuine offer. If you want to know one reason why I hate Bill Weld so much, let me tell you something you might not know, besides him lying his ass off to the delegates. When Bill Weld was still in the party, a registered libertarian, this is my thought process. This guy is probably going to be our candidate. I can stay home and stay on social media and be butthurt and bitch and just cause all kinds of problems, or I can try to help. So I decided I wanted to try to help. I got in touch with people who were close with Bill, asked Bill if he'd be willing to speak with me and hear me out, and he said that he would. And I spent my own money and flew my ass out to Massachusetts. My pink head is in a picture. If you go to Reason magazine, where it talks about Bill Weld talking at the Massachusetts convention, you'll see my pink head there, front and center. That was on my own dime. And he pretended to listen to me. He said all the right things. And then he turned around, went in the other room, and advocated for public funding of college. He doesn't have an honest bone in his body. And then he gave me the Libertarian for Life bullshit too, and turned around and then betrayed us. So if you're wondering why it's so personal to me, because I've got $800 of personal in it. And you don't believe me? I got his freaking cell phone number. That's like how like genuine he presented himself to me. Not that I would ever give it to anyone or anything like that, but I've got it. You can believe me or not, I've got it. Anyway. Bruce, I'm gonna give you a pushback if you don't mind. I think sometimes we as libertarians, and this is something I say a lot, so those of you who listen to me will have heard this spiel a bunch of times, but bear me out. We sometimes act like the Gnostics of old. If you don't know what the Gnostics were, they were considered a heretical sect of Christianity who believed that they had this secret knowledge that only they could handle, because gnosis means knowledge. And they had to keep this gnosis, this knowledge, away from the general public because they couldn't handle it. I think we as libertarians often act like Gnostics. We can handle it. We're not scared. We're special. But my neighbor, no, he's a big pussy. He couldn't handle it. I don't believe that. I don't believe we're made of sturdier stuff than our neighbors are. And if we can handle it, our neighbors can handle it. There might be some people who can't. That's fine. But we're not better, you know? And in a way, that's kind of how it comes off to me. When we say we have to water down what we actually believe or hide what we actually believe to keep from scaring other people, to me it sounds very, very elitist. Like we think we're better than other people and we can handle truths that the peasants can't handle. And I don't believe that for a second. So if we all believe anti-state, I think there's a lot of people in the public out there that once they heard it would believe it too. We need to stop being self-hating libertarians. Like, here's the thing. When people are so worried about saying what we actually believe, I go, if you really think what we believe is so freaking repulsive, why are you a libertarian? I'm not saying this to you, Bruce. I'm speaking a lot more generally. Please don't think any of this is targeted to you. If you really think it's that scary and that revolting, why do you believe it? You know, I'm excited about what we believe. I want to tell everyone, and I don't water it down. And you want to know something funny? And this could be because I don't look threatening. You know, I'm a 50-something-year-old woman with pink hair, okay? I'm a Colorado housewife. I don't look threatening. But when I go out and talk about anarchy, it doesn't close doors for me, and it doesn't scare people. People get curious and interested. For me, it opens doors. But again, that could be just because of me, how I present myself, you know. I'm not a young kid who, you know, I'm not threatening in any way, and I'm a pacifist. But for me, anarchy doesn't do anything negative for me. It has only opened doors for me. But I understand that might not be the case for everybody. And I would agree here with this statement. I think that's the only way we're going to be able to do it. Absent revolution, and obviously I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in revolution whatsoever. And for those who don't know, who are curious, my pacifism is not a political view, it's a religious view. So I don't impose that upon anyone else. It's a personal view. I will argue to the cows come home for your right to bear arms and practice lethal self-defense. I just personally don't do that. Let me see here. Oh, God, Rancid Line, this is so important. I'm going to end up doing a whole show on this. That law is not equal to morality, but let me even expand upon that. Libertarianism and the non-aggression principle is also not a complete system of morality. A lot of people make it that way. And I think when you do that, you really turn people off, because libertarianism would say you don't have to help that starving man. You don't. But is that a moral statement? No, as a moral being, I would think if you can, you should. So we got to be very careful not to equate the non-aggression principle or make the non-aggression principle a complete system of morality. It's not. What it is a system of justice. Justice is a subset of morality, but it's not the complete picture. And I think we need to be really, really careful with that. Yeah, you like that, huh, Logan? I thought that was pretty common saying, but maybe not. But yeah, there's another one too that's out there for anarchists. But Ancapistan is the one I like the best. I find that funny. Okay, let's see if there is others. Yep, this one too. Green Dogo, if I'm pronouncing that right, has a lot of good statements here. There's certainly, anarchy doesn't mean you can't be a criminal. Absolutely. Well, I like something that Robert Murphy said. Sorry, minarchists, I'm going to say a very anarchist thing here. He said, anarchy doesn't mean that there will not be unjustified or, how did he put it? Unjustified use of violence or something like that. But he said, but having a state guarantees that there will be. And I love that. And I'm going to put up a statement here. I understand your concerns, Theodore. I don't think they're unreasonable. Let's hope you're wrong. Let's hope he'll learn more. Because I think he could be a powerful advocate. I just don't want him to split the party. And that's my main concern. And that's why I'm doing the critique. That is offending a lot of people, but let me tell you something. You better love the party more than you love any man. Like, don't be so enamored with some hero figure that you don't care about the party more. Let's see here. Yeah, you had it, Mallory. It was Notch. You said this. I didn't see it before right now, but I had thought of it as well. Was it Al? Is it Alfred Notch or something? Maybe you can let me know the first name. But yeah, that is a minarchist that Rothbard really, really respected as an anti-state minarchist. I love this comment, Bruce. Amen, right? I didn't used to feel this way about corporations, but to be honest with you, I never really thought about it. And I think in America, we kind of just are so used to it, we don't really give it much thought. And I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think a lot of libertarians have given a great deal of thought to corporations. And if they did, I think they would oppose them. There's something else I want to bring up before I go back to more comments. Something I want to bring up before I forget. Another concern. I don't have these tweets, but I'm sure most of you have seen them. Is Justin's indication perhaps that he wants to turn the Libertarian Party pro-life? You all know, or most of you should know, I am pro-life. I don't want to turn the party pro-life, even though that's my personal position. And I see him pushing this issue a lot because he thinks perhaps, I don't know, I can't read his mind, that it will make the Libertarian Party more palatable to disaffected Republicans. But to be honest with you, someone who won't were pro-life, I don't want in the party. I joined the party disagreeing with that one plank. We don't need these single issue obsessed people. We don't. And I don't say very often that I don't want X. But I don't care what the single issue is. Those types of people are destructive to all parties. They make it all about their pet issue. We had someone write the LP the other day who obviously didn't know very much about us, but basically said, you guys could be so big if only you would make your party pro-life and take a how did he word it? He wanted us to take a position on homosexuality that was like, it was very patronizing. It was kind of like, Jesus wouldn't throw them out, but he would love them too much to keep them that way or something. And I got kind of angry responding to that. But I set him straight. I says, listen, I'm pro-life, and I don't want the party to be pro-life. You said we'll bring in a bunch of pro-lifers. Why don't you care about a bunch of pro-choicers that we would then lose? Why is that group more important than this group? So that's my concern also with Amash. Now, what's funny is, in my experience, strictly anecdotal, the pragmatists that he seems to want to be appealing to are vehemently in favor of us staying pro-choice. And the anarchists that he seems to maybe be alienating, I know far more anarchists that are sympathetic to pro-life than I do pragmatists. And I don't think he realizes that. It's kind of funny to me. And I don't really know why that is, but it's been my experience. And each time I bring this up to people, they go, you know, I think you're right. Like a light dawns. So that's another concern I have. I have been a big proponent of deleting the abortion plank, of having us take no position. I think I'm starting to change my mind on that, though. Why? Because it basically says nothing, for one thing. It doesn't say that abortion is right. All it says is that it doesn't say anything about it being a right or a right thing to do. All it says is that the government should stay out of it, and I agree that the government should stay out of it, even being a pro-lifer myself. But my main reason now for rethinking wanting to delete the plank is I think it keeps us from getting overrun by people who want to make the LP Republican 2.0. I think that's a real concern. So I'm kind of waffling on whether I want to delete the plank or not. But I know that he at least wants to delete the plank, and I think he actually wants us to be pro-life, and that's a problem. So, okay, now continuing on the comments here. I agree with you, Brian. Well, there's a lot of things that are confusing to new members, aren't they? Brian had said, and the reason why, even though I put the comments on the screen, but I also read them out loud. I know a lot of people consume YouTube the way I do, which is they're walking around doing housework and listening, and they don't see the screen. So that's why I read it, if you guys are wondering. Brian said the use of big L libertarian versus small L libertarian as another form of anarchist is confusing to new members. I get it. If you all know that there's kind of a tongue-in-cheek quiz called the Kaplan Purity Quiz, and it's Kaplan with a C. I took that, and he means it as a joke. I took it when I was brand new to the party, and I scored 80. Okay, those of you who are familiar will know that that's very moderate. 7 months later, I scored 160. But, yeah, I mean, I was confused. I would have been very confused. And let me add here. I'm glad, yeah, Daniel Wilkie says, an anarchist could view the rule of law as the law applies to everyone, as in no one is above the law, non-aggression principle. But I agree that phrase being used by Justin isn't helpful. Yeah, that's kind of my point. And it's very dog whistly to Republicans, honestly. And I think we need to avoid that. Some of you may be surprised to hear me say that because you hear me railing against sometimes us drifting too far left, and you tend to think that maybe I'm like a closet conservative. Nope. Actually, on the political spectrum, I'm center left. I don't think we should be dog whistling to either side. I think we have harmed ourselves greatly over the years with whiplash, going from the right to the left, from the right to the left, depending upon who's president. And if we would just be frickin' libertarian, we would be much happier. So, yeah. Oh, see, everyone said the sound was good. I'm sorry I didn't continue to play it then. It was really garbled here, and I didn't want to torture you guys with garbled. But you can find that link on the LP site. That presentation would be helpful to a lot of people. I don't I know it sounds like kind of arrogant because I'm like promoting myself, but I'm promoting myself, I guess. Okay. I'm going to put up something I disagree with. So Brian says, because I don't only put up comments that I agree with, anarchist equals libertarian is like clinging to a word as a matter of principle, even though it's not practical as a political party. I would disagree, but it is a matter of principle. I'll agree with you there. And we're not a political party in the traditional sense of the word. We're an anti-political party who's a political party. That's the way the party was founded. So I make no apologies for that. And I actually think we are on the bleeding edge of history, and that some form of voluntary governments or governance is, I believe democracy is a relic, and we're seeing its death throes, and we're on the bleeding edge of what's going to be the next revolution in human social evolution, which will be a multivalent political system. I could get into that. Almost like panarchy is pretty much what I'm describing. I think that's the wave of the future, and we're on the bleeding edge, and I'm not ashamed of it. So being on the bleeding edge isn't always practical, but when the change comes, it comes fast. And I don't want to have been ashamed of being the ones who were on that edge, because I do think we are the future. Not we personally necessarily, but we as a philosophy are the future of humanity. I absolutely believe that, or I wouldn't be involved. So, okay, let me put this up here. David Johnson had another really good comment. Justin's got a very large audience of folks who are today constitutionalists, classic liberals, which the term libertarian started as in its current usage, maybe in America, not in Europe. Libertarian in Europe is ANCOM. And to them, the term anarchist conjures up images of burning cars and black-clad rioters. Given where they are today, what do you suggest would help Amash recruit those individuals to aid in the cause of liberty and contribute to the party and move them, move them from, it automatically goes off the screen, I'm sorry, contribute to from that position without resulting in division? That's a really good question. One thing I think he should do is just avoid talking about anarchists at all. Certainly not denying them. I don't think he needs to bring them up. I think he could just talk about liberty, and people, as they start to become accustomed to those ideas, they will gradually, they'll figure it out for themselves. I want to keep this up here so that people can digest it, because I know I read it fast. Yeah, he just needs to avoid that. I just think he needs to just talk basic liberty. And that would never divide the party. And it would attract people who can then discover at their own pace. Nobody preached, well, I don't want to say nobody, because actually a few people did, but I was already well on my way to becoming an anarchist. But when I first got into the party, I didn't hear any of that stuff. It was all around, but what I heard was voluntary and no aggression and things like that. I think emphasizing, not the term voluntarious, because again, I think that has a meaning that we shouldn't co-opt, but voluntary cooperation, voluntary measures, non-aggressive measures, the non-initiation of force. He could use all of those terms, and that would unite the base, because we all fap when we hear the nap. Ooh, I made a rhyme. We all fap when we hear the nap. And that would unite the party. And it's not really even changing anything that he means. He just shouldn't say the A word at all, honestly. Just stick to non-aggression and voluntary. And that is meeting people where they are, because consent culture is hot. People understand consent culture. I know a lot of people like to put all that off as like some kind of leftist thing. No, it's not. And with how hot and how much people today really understand consent, I think if he pounded that drum, man, he'd be phenomenal. Okay, let's see. Continuing here. Oh, I want to tell you something about AOC here, Green Dogo. If you haven't watched any of my videos where I've been doing opposition research, I've been hanging out with the commies on the People's Party, which is an up-and-coming third party. I think she's going to end up with the People's Party, and it's a great fit. I do think that's where she's going to end up, by the way, but just FYI, if you're interested in studying political movements, you might find my videos on the People's Party interesting because it's brand new. You're like watching the birth of a whole new party. It doesn't matter whether I agree with them or not. I'm just fascinated by watching a new party start. Okay, here, and I am glad. So, always wearing my long hair down says, interesting, I'm learning something new. Love to impart new information. So I'm glad to hear that. Oh, and Daniel, I'm going to put you up here. I agree. I wish he would run for governor. The chances are greater than winning president, but we all know that winning president is, running for president. Okay, most people have been in this party long enough, even though I think we all get temporary delusions when election season comes along. We all know that we're not going to win and that the purpose is a little bit different than that, though I enter the same delusion during election season. But I think he's got a much better shot at winning governor, and that would be amazing. And here, I'm going to make him blush. Hopefully he's still here. One of my favorite libertarians in the entire world who gives me hope every single day, Rabbi Mark Montoni. He says, I use libertarian anarchist as well as anarcho-capitalist. I think either one is understood by those who have an open mind. I think so too, Mark. I find some people today, even though I call myself a capitalist, they're starting to really conflate corporatism with capitalism, and that's bad for us. I wish that wasn't happening. So I usually prefer libertarian anarchist. I've kind of avoided lately using the word capitalist, though I don't think it's a dirty word. But in America, we've conflated corporatism with capitalism so much. Just why I wish the Libertarian Party would get away from supporting corporations because they're gross. Now I'm gonna any relation to Wendy, Paul, because I was mentioning Wendy McElroy earlier. I'm going to give you a little pushback, if that's okay, because I like doing that. He says, as an anarcho-capitalist, I want the state to recede slowly in a controlled manner until the status quo becomes indistinguishable from anarchy. The problem with that is, and I don't, on principle disagree or anything. Problem with that is, though, that's not really how change happens. I'm going to preach here, even though I'm not a member of this caucus. I'm not a member of any caucus, by the way. I don't believe party officers should be members of caucuses. But I am a huge fan of the 5 key principles of the Radical Caucus. And I do think they hit everything spot on. And there's something in there, and I've done a show on it called No Particular Order. And no particular orderism says that you can't centrally plan liberty, that you have to take every chance you have to roll back the state, even if it's not at the time or the order that you would want. When the opportunity presents itself, cut the head off of the Hydra, even though you might have preferred a different head to be cut off first. So while I would love to see that happen, I don't think that's the way it will happen. And I think no matter what happens to change our society, it's going to happen fast. And I hope it's not of the revolutionary kind of fast, meaning the violent revolutionary. But unfortunately, I think that's a real possibility. I'm involved in politics because I think there's a better way. A lot of people think they want civil war or a revolution. Yeah, wait till they get it. They won't like it very much. Daniel, I don't know the answer to that. He says, I hope Justin is involved with his affiliate. If anyone from Michigan is here, if you know, I think there was someone from Michigan earlier that talked about something with, I'm old. I forget things fast. I hope he is too. And I don't know if he is. Green Dogo, better to leave comments on Facebook. It's better on YouTube. And here's 2 reasons. One, Facebook, it goes down in the feed and no one ever sees it. Facebook is very ephemeral. And YouTube is much more permanent, so people will come back and watch later, and then 2 months from now, someone might interact with your comments. Plus, a selfish reason. The selfish reason is I'm trying to get my 4,000 view hours to maybe qualify for YouTube monetization, but I probably won't qualify because I curse too fucking much, right? But I'd like to at least see what happens. Maybe once I hit the 4,000 hours, I will clean up my mouth a little or beep it out. I don't know. So yeah, YouTube. Anyone who could watch on YouTube, I would really appreciate it. It helps me out with engagement. And also, forget the monetization thing, because I don't think there's a chance in hell I'll ever be monetized. It helps the algorithm, so that the video gets recommended to more people and I can spread the gospel of libertarianism. Because on Facebook, it's my wall, and almost everyone on my wall is already a libertarian. On YouTube, we can maybe get some converts. There you go. I can't picture Justin Amash high. I can't picture it. It would be funny. I would pay to see that. Oh boy. Bruce here. I don't know, Bruce. I have a lot of political discussions, and Wayne says I can go from zero to just general libertarianism to anarchy in about a minute, and keep him interested. He can walk away and get me a drink. By the time he's come back, I'm talking Rothbard. Maybe it's just a weird talent that I have. I don't know. And Green Dogo, no, listen, when I was dating, I told them all the weird stuff on the first date. Because if they stuck around, then I knew it was meant to be. Ask Wayne. Wayne knew all the weird stuff. Let me see here. Here's where I'll disagree with you, David. David says, speaking from a position of free trader mentality, I assume we can agree Amash has the means and numbers to get the 2024 nomination easily if he wants. No, I don't agree there, but let's continue. If not from existing delegates, from recruiting and seating his own, it's not that easy. I don't think affiliates roll over that easy. At one point, 2016, maybe, no, not even 2016, maybe even going back, when it used to be that you could walk onto the convention floor and get a seat because no states filled their delegations, there were always seats, I would have agreed with you. 2016 forward, that has changed. And affiliates don't just seat anyone. And if you've got people who want to be delegates, who have been around longer, on these limited seats, they're going to get it. Packing delegations isn't possible anymore. So I do think he has to appeal to the base. I mean, we could agree to disagree, but yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I would have agreed with you in 2012. Okay, let me put Logan here. I think you would want to change it because of religious reasons. He's talking about pro-life. Let us not forget he is a very religious person. This isn't an insult or anything, just what I think from what I know about him. No, he is deeply religious. And one thing a lot of you might not know, I'm a very religious person. I don't shove it on anybody, and, probably my language could be cleaned up a little bit, but I'm a devout Christian. But I don't want to put it onto anybody for sure. but I'm not so sure he's necessarily pro-life because of religious reasons. He might be, but I can tell you I'm not pro-life because of religious reasons. If I were to lose my faith tomorrow, change my mind about religion, I would still be pro-life. My arguments aren't religious, so his might not be. I don't know. He certainly doesn't, like, I've never heard him speak against equal rights for gay people or anything like that, which when people tend to make their policy from, like, religious reasons, you often hear that. Though I will say, as a religious Christian person, just in case anyone's curious, I think the Bible's misunderstood on that point. And as a Christian, I have zero problem with gay people, which is why I do get mad at the bakers who won't bake the cake. I don't think they're being very true to Christianity, but it's their right to do that, and it's my right to say I think they're being jerks. Continuing here. Yeah, see, Logan noticed it too. And funny, start really paying attention and you'll find there's an awful lot of anarchists that are, they might not want the state to enforce pro-life, but they're very friendly to removing the abortion plank. Way more so than the Prags. And I think Justin's gonna find that really surprising. So I'm glad you noticed that too. Almost everybody, when they think about it, says, hey, you know, you seem to be right. Let's see here. Oh, I agree with you, Logan. That would be fun, wouldn't it? That would be fun. Because I don't think he's had any experience at that. And it's not to say that I think any anarchist could take any minarchist, but any anarchist can take someone who's not used to debating anarchists. Because they just aren't used to the arguments. It's like I say in religious circles too. An average Jehovah's Witness can turn an average non-Jehovah's Witness Christian in knots because they're not used to the arguments, and they would just eat them for lunch. And I think an anarchist would eat his lunch. And again, not necessarily because the anarchist is right, though I think the anarchist would be, but just because of novelty, maybe. Okay, Logan, no, they actually, watch my videos on this if you haven't. They're actively courting her. I don't know what Jimmy Dore's doing, but that guy, I keep forgetting his name, who was the organizer for the Bernie campaign, he's really like the main founder of the People's Party. Crap, what is his name? I'd know it again if I heard it. They are actively, they've already sent her an invitation. So we'll see. I'll take that bet with you. And just so everyone has this here, Mark Montoni has helpfully dispelled the myth that anarchist societies have never existed or worked. That really is not the case. There has been. So I just want to leave that up there. I wish somebody who was on YouTube would copy that and paste it there, because it would be more long-lasting there, because Mark's commenting on Facebook. Okay, let me see here. Last comment. We do have a self-ownership plank. I think it's actually called self-ownership. I was the platform committee chair for two conventions. Well, we didn't get to be heard in 2020, but I believe the plank is even called self-ownership. You might want to double check that, because body modification, I think our platform supports that. And our platform doesn't explicitly talk about the right to suicide. If it doesn't, and I'm on the platform committee again, I'll champion that, mark my words. Those of you who are curious about these sorts of things, if you want to know who was responsible, or at least who championed it, obviously the delegates have to pass. They're ultimately responsible. But if you want to know who championed the language in our plank on relationships that says that the government I know it used to just say the government shouldn't discriminate on basis of sexual identity, that sort of thing. I'm the one who championed adding the phrase that, government should, about marriage, basically the ad, regardless of number of parties. So I'm the one who put in the pro-polygamy language. Thank you very much. Just so you know, that was my radical ass that did that. And I would gladly put in explicit endorsement for the right to end one's own life. Because you do not own yourself if you do not have that right. Okay, everyone, that is the end of the questions, and this has been going on for a bit. Thank you. It's been lively, and I think a lot of people will have gotten a lot out of this. I do hope Justin watches this. And Justin, if you do, I'd love to talk with you. I want to help you be a success and have a great time in the party and help grow the party and unify the party. I adore you. Please don't take any of this as personal. It's not at all. And I'd welcome a phone call. And my phone number is public, so I'll just say it here. You want to get in touch with me? 561-523-2250. My phone number has always been public. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have an awesome night. Bye-bye.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business.